Welcome to This Explainer. If you're here right now, it's probably because you already know your body is talking to you. You feel it, right? Maybe it's that tight tension in your shoulders, or this heavy exhaustion you just can't shake, or even that sudden, frustrating brain fog right after you eat. Well, your body is actually incredibly intelligent. It's not just throwing random symptoms at you to make your life difficult. Every little ache, every sudden shift in your energy, every emotional wave, it's all a really clear, purposeful signal. Your body is, quite literally, desperate to communicate with you.
But here is the big question that almost nobody ever answers for us. Talking through what, exactly? What is the actual language our bodies are using to send these signals? Okay, let's dive into this. It turns out the body sends its messages through 5 very specific systems. We're going to look at this absolutely brilliant holistic map that was drafted by traditional medicine centuries before microscopes even existed. And once you learn to read this map, I promise you, every weird symptom you've ever experienced is finally going to start making total sense.
Now, to truly get this, we need a slight paradigm shift. We kind of have to look at the body a little differently than what basic biology taught us back in school. In traditional medicine, specifically Chinese medicine, the entire body is organized around 5 organ systems. And notice I said systems, not just 5 individual body parts. You can think of this concept as our decoder ring for today's explainer. An organ system governs a whole cluster of physical functions, sure, but it also governs an emotion, a specific season of the year, and even a relationship to certain foods. It is all deeply, beautifully interconnected. So let's meet these 5 organs. I invite you to just take a deep breath with me and let's go on a really grounded, methodical tour of this hidden map inside of you. We'll take it one at a time in plain language. We're going to start with the kidney system. Think of this as your foundational energy. This is your deep reserve tank, the one you're born with and that you draw from throughout your entire life. It governs your bones, your ears, your hair, and emotionally, the kidney system governs fear. When this system is depleted, wow, you feel it profoundly. It shows up as this bone-deep exhaustion. The kind of profound weariness where sleeping in until noon on a Saturday just doesn't even make a dent. And that makes sense, right? Because the season associated with the kidney system is winter, a time that is naturally meant for deep rest and conservation. Moving right along, let's look at the spleen system. This system is basically the master of digestion. Specifically, it governs your body's ability to take the food you eat and transform it into usable, vibrant energy. Physically, it rules your muscles, but emotionally, it is intimately tied to worry. Have you ever noticed how anxiety almost always hits your stomach first? Well, that's exactly it. That's the spleen system reacting to a loop of overthinking. When your spleen energy is weak or overwhelmed, you'll feel it in very everyday ways. You might get super bloated or get hit with heavy brain fog right after meals. Its season is late summer, that really heavy, sort of transitional time of the year. Next up, we have the liver system. Imagine the liver as your body's internal traffic control. It's completely responsible for making sure energy flows smoothly throughout your entire body. It governs your tendons and your eyes. Emotionally, the liver holds anger and frustration. So when this energy gets stuck, literally tightening up your physical tissues like a giant traffic jam in your system, it manifests as physical tension, irritability, and skin that just suddenly breaks out the second you're under stress. It is tightly linked to the season of spring, which is all about pushing forward and explosive new growth. Then there is the heart system, gently holding the center of it all. The heart governs your circulation, but in traditional medicine, it actually governs the mind itself. It connects to the tongue, and its core emotion is joy, or honestly, quite often the absence of joy. When your heart system is unsettled, it doesn't just feel like a weird physical flutter in your chest. You feel it as deep, unshakable anxiety. You feel it in poor, fragmented sleep and in that racing, wired mind that wakes you up completely exhausted at like 3 a.m. The heart season is the peak heat and expansive energy of summer. And finally, we wrap up our map with the lung system. The lung governs your breath, obviously, but also your immune defense. Traditional medicine calls this your Wei Qi, your invisible protective energy shield. Think of Wei Qi as your body's atmospheric boundary. It governs your skin, and it holds the emotion of grief. So if you have a weak lung system, you're probably someone who catches colds all the time. You might notice your breathing is really shallow, or that your skin struggles to stay clear and is just highly reactive to your environment. The lung is deeply tied to the season of autumn, which is, fittingly, a time of letting go. That brings us to the absolutely vital physical-emotional link. Now that we've mapped the organs out, you might have picked up on a really fascinating pattern. There's this profound link between the physical and the emotional in every single system we just talked about. Every organ governs both a physical function and an emotion. Now, this isn't just traditional medicine being poetic or philosophical. It is traditional medicine being incredibly precise. Today, modern mainstream science tells us that the nervous system and the digestive system literally share the exact same neurotransmitters. We know this as a hard scientific fact now, and this brilliantly illustrates how ancient wisdom was already there. Traditional medicine simply mapped the physical and the emotional together 3,000 years earlier. It's exactly the same biology, just spoken in a different, very beautiful language.
Okay, so let's talk about translating your symptoms. How do we actually bring this deeply intuitive theory into immediate practical application for you? How do we use this map to translate what your own body is feeling right this second? Well, next time you have a symptom, I want you to stop and don't ask, "What's wrong with me?" Instead, ask, "Which organ is speaking?" I really want you to let that sit with you for a moment. This one single reframe is just incredibly powerful. It completely shifts you away from fear and confusion, and it gives you this really concrete foundation for understanding literally everything about your health.
When you look at it this way, see how easily these random discomforts can suddenly be traced directly back to an organ that is just asking for your support? Like, are you exhausted no matter how many hours you sleep? That's your kidney speaking, asking for profound restoration. Are you feeling bloated and foggy after lunch? That's your spleen, begging for some digestive support. Are you super tense, irritable, or breaking out when you're stressed? Well, that's your liver, asking for energy to move smoothly again. Are you anxious, feeling totally wired with a racing mind? That is your heart asking to be settled down. Or maybe you're catching every single cold going around and breathing shallowly. That's your lung asking for protection. You see, once you can name the organ that's speaking, you instantly know exactly where to look for the answer. And finding that answer leads us directly into the cycle of healing. Let's move to and see how this builds, leading us to a much more holistic view of our bodies. We get to move away from treating these isolated random symptoms, and we actually step into true healing. Because of course, these organs do not work in isolation. They build into what traditional medicine calls the 5-element cycle. They literally feed each other. The kidney feeds the liver feeds the heart feeds the spleen feeds the lung, and the lung circles right back around to feed the kidney. This is absolutely vital to understand because one weak organ will very often create symptoms and another one down the line. But you know what the really beautiful part is? If you fix the root organ, the downstream symptoms often just resolve on their own, completely automatically. This unchanging map is really the essential vocabulary you need for your entire holistic health journey moving forward. It is the foundation for everything. It allows you to trace your symptoms right to your organs and then support them with specific foods, a framework we refer to as S.O.F, by the way. It also helps you deeply understand how you yourself shift during seasonal changes. Knowing that the liver leads spring, the heart leads summer, the lung leads autumn, the kidney leads winter, and the spleen gently bridges the gaps between all of them. And ultimately, it's the core guide for longevity and resetting your entire system. It all, always, comes back to this map.
Now, please hear me on this one thing. You do not need to perfectly memorize this map today. Actually, scratch that. You don't need to memorize it at all. True bodily intuition comes from recognition, not from rote memorization. When you hear the word liver going forward, you'll naturally recognize that it means stress and spring and tension and the eyes, not just a physical organ sitting in your abdomen. When you hear kidney, you'll instantly know we mean deep energy, winter, and fear. That gentle, intuitive recognition, that is more than enough to start your healing.
Your body has been running on this magnificent system your entire life, whether you actually have the language for it or not. But now you do. 5 organs, 5 emotions, 5 seasons, one beautifully interconnected map. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to really reflect on. Now that you know the map, what is your body asking for today? Listen closely, because it's ready to tell you.